We are live. Welcome, everyone. I'm here, as always, with my good friend Josh Nelson from Socks Machine, and we're not going to talk socks. We're going to talk a little bit of Star Wars here, as we do on the weekends. And Josh, just to kick it off, man, how have you been enjoying the show overall?
Yeah, so the last time we spoke, we talked about with the White Sox or worlds colliding. Jake Burger tweeted that he enjoyed Andor more than The Mandalorian, and I thought that was a bit early proclamation. I still enjoyed The Mandalorian more than Andor, but episodes 8 and 9, ever since Cassian has gone to prison, has really picked up. And we are watching some high quality television right now in the series, especially episodes 8 and 9. The introduction of Andy Serkis's character, Kino, everything's just been phenomenal. These last two episodes, it's really set the stage for the conclusion of season 1. So the arrow is really pointing up for the series. There's a lot of questions early on. What exactly are we watching in episodes 1 and 2? And things picked up at episode 3. In this 3-episode arc, we are not getting the same type of problems we saw in episode 2. This has been riveting stuff that they are producing. How about you? Are you enjoying the show more as we progress?
I am. I think it's part just getting into the rhythm of it. The fact that it is arcs and that you're going to see this, but also I think that they are not shying away from this, really showing how awful the Empire is, right? Mm-hmm. And I think at the beginning of the show, you're almost rooting for a character like Dedra, right? And then now you're not. And let's get into that a little bit. So we start the episode off very light, very, very much, trying to keep it a show for children, with an incredible torture scene. Josh, what did you think about this, because it's not like someone's actually being physically tortured. It's not like, you've seen shows where they're like, yeah, I'm going to put this, like a show like 24 where they're like, well, we're going to jam this under your fingernail, it's not that. And they build up a lot of tension in this scene. What did you think overall of the scene itself?
So Dr. Gross is not a good doctor. I'm wondering what his thesis was to earn his doctorate. It can't be good. No, I think the acting was well done here between Bix and Dedra. And Dedra really comes off swarmy in an attempt to intimidate. Bix is not so easily to be intimidated, but her hearing on what happened to Solomon Pack and all the pain that he went through, you can see that the look on her face changes when her ex-boyfriend who got murked is brought up, and they already know quite a bit, but they don't know how Cassian Andor connects with what they're calling the code name Axis. And they're hoping that they're going to get it out of Bix here. And just the slow play of the torture, using the audio torture of this alien race's death scream as a way to get people to talk. Now, what I was hoping for after watching the episode twice, the first time I saw it, I was wondering, oh man, how come we're not hearing what this sound is? But the second time, and the zoom in as you captured here in the slide, just the really close up on the eyes, and you could just sense the fear and you could see it. And then her primal scream as she's being tortured by this sound is something we have not seen in Star Wars. Typically, Chirizi, when the torture starts happening, the door closes. The only time that we have seen something like this before was at Force Awakens, when Kylo Ren is torturing Cameron Poe.
Yes. Yeah. So they torture Poe, and they torture also he tries to torture Rey, but he's unsuccessful, right? Like, I mean, but I, what, you know, you mentioned the door closing, and beautifully done by Andor. And like, so Andor as a show has not done a lot of fan service, but there are a lot of beautiful callbacks to other stuff. The door closing on Vader and Leia and the troop walking off the feet, exactly the same done here, just really well done. And like, to that point, one of the cool things about this is like, this is a few years before that. And then this is even more years before Han gets tortured by the Empire. So they've been perfecting this over these years. And so I don't like a lot of times when you try and put something in a show to fix something that happened in the movies that doesn't make so much sense, right? But in this case, they put something in the show and build up this tension and show you what the Empire is capable of in their torture. That only makes it more impressive what the others endure later on, with probably more cruel techniques. So I love that about it. You mentioned the doctor. I got a few thoughts on this doctor. First of all, like, I don't know where they cast this guy. Like, he's either like an actual Nazi, or he's like the keyboard player in like a Kraftwerk cover band. Like, there's that, like, it's one of those two things. Like, I don't know how else you could get someone who's so Dr. Mengele, but also has a rolling board of sounds that he's going to play for you. But also, the other thing about him that I want to happen, and I don't think this is going to happen, but I want this to happen so bad. I want Saw Gerrera to get a hold of that guy. Like, I like, you know how in The Mandalorian they get Dr. Pershing and he like starts spilling everything right away, and they're like,
Yes.
okay, well, we don't got to do much to you then. Saw would rip this guy apart piece by piece and then give him to Borgully. Like, that's, you know, like, I want to see this guy tortured, and not with audio.
And he's evidently on call. Hey, we captured this guy. Send Dr. Course. He's off today. He's on PTO. Not anymore. Send him.
He's working Twitter developer hours right now. It's pretty incredible what they're doing to this poor guy. But yeah, I mean, like, so, but overall, I mean, like, you nailed it with the expressions in this are everything. I mean, like, her expression when she hears that, like, think about how scared you'd be to find out that the toughest person you know just spilled out everything about you. Like, you have to think like, okay, this Star Wars VR experience that I'm about to get, worst ever. Like, this, I'm not feeling good about what I'm about to get. That VR headset comes out, she is fucking nervous. So,
yeah, she should be,
and she should. And like, they build that up so beautifully. Her and I can't remember Dedra or Dedra, whichever one it is. Their eye contact, and like, even just like the most minor facial muscle twitching is just so telling in this scene. It's really awesome. And then when she's about to scream, we juxtapose into the audio from Cassian working in the prison. And so, you know, I watch a lot of other breakdowns, Josh, and I listen to other people talk about Star Wars. And one of the things that is kind of like people keep coming back to is like, well, he's in prison now. He's on this like little team. They're trying to win. He's learning to be part of a team that he's going to need to be when he's in there. I see you shaking your head. I think you and I are on the same page here. Is he actually learning to be part of a team in this scenario?
No, he is. Well, it's Scorpio season, as we are in the month of November. And I believe Cassian Andor is a Scorpio, because this is how I also work as a human being, is that I portray that I am a good teammate and that I am doing everything for the team. But what I'm really doing is learning about all the individuals that surround me and how the process goes. So I could either do one of two things. I could take over said process, or I could influence the process to my well liking. And this is what Cassian Andor is doing. He is giving the perception that he's working really hard. So you are not seeing what he is doing, attempting to Shawshank Redemption the bathroom. I have no idea what he saw in as far as the metal piece, but it must be important. And they've been working on that for quite some time. But he's also trying to get the timing down on the procedures when they introduce their new cellmates into the work area, as far as the timing, what parts of the floor get buzzed, which parts do not, the railing, as far as the inmate touching the railing and not suffering more pain. That was really key. And learning that the elevator is not part of the zapping floor, that will be key as well. And him wanting to understand how many guards there are, and him also noticing they're not listening to us. There are no microphones. There's no listening devices at all within the cells or the work area. So he's figured out quite a bit in his first month in prison.
Yeah, and I think one thing in there, Josh, and you, I think you nailed it here. Like that's exactly what's going on, and a perfect moment of that, and why I chose this screenshot is he asks to switch spots, and it's under the guise of Olaf's hurt. Let's move around, and I can make this work better, and we can win. We can absolutely win. But all he's trying to do is get in position to see what's going on. That's his only objective there. And one of the comments there was good. Like he genuinely cares for his floor mates, and I think he does care. Like he cares about Olaf. That upsets him the way things go. He cares about
Olaf,
others, but like it's only fuel for him to be angry. It's not so much like, and we might see this in the upcoming episode. He's going to have to make decisions of who gets off of this thing and who doesn't. And he is getting off of this. We know.
Right. As far as the genuine cares, genuine might be a stretch. I think what he understands is that he's also trying to sell to others that we can't stay here. We need to escape. And he knows that this is not a one-person job. It's going to take the entire floor's cooperation in order for Cassian to escape from this prison. I think with Olaf, and this is something that I think is portrayed terrifically throughout the entire episode, is that he feels sorry for him. That this guy is frail. He is old. He only has 41 days left in his sentencing, but there's clearly something wrong health-wise. And it's impacting him every single day. And he's so close to the finish line. So I think for Cassian, I don't know if I would say generally cares. I think he generally feels sorry for Olaf as he's going through this, as he's so close to getting out.
I will say he genuinely cares. And I think Danny's point is there. He genuinely cares about the weaker people. Like, I think if you're able-bodied, if you're good to go, he's like, fend for yourself. But I think this goes all the way back to him being a child and like him taking care of his little sister, which he was unable to really do. He cares about the weaker people. And I think that that's going to fuel him throughout a lot of this. Like, you can't keep just like killing these people indiscriminately and hurting these people indiscriminately that can't fend for themselves. And that will fuel him to fight. Maybe not even so much as a togetherness with the people around him, but like the Olafs of the world. Which, speaking of, I want to talk about Olaf for just a second, because this whole thing is supposed to, like, when they were separating all the people to where they're going for prison, they're sending the able-bodied to this place, right? Like to work. Empire's been around for like 14 years at this point. So Olaf's been in prison maybe like 10, 12 years, something like that, you would think. Like, has he aged that much? Like, is like this place just sucking the life out of people? Like, is like a 10-year prison sentence the equivalent of like 600 years in this? Like, I'm kind of like trying to wrap my head around how Olaf is actually there.
Mm.
And I watched it a couple times when they said you're next out or whatever. He does make a little bit of a, like, the one still kind of well working eye kind of pops open a little bit, and I think it's because he's been transferred before. He knows he's got 41 days till he goes to a different floor, right? Like, so I think there's something there about Olaf that, like, is interesting to me. I don't think they're gonna pay it off in any way, but like that just kind of gives you the general impression, like, you guys are never getting out of here. And it's subtle there, and then like very obvious later.
Mhm.
But when you mentioned what is Cassian trying to saw at there, and I'm not sure yet. But one thing that was noticeable during this episode was when they kill everybody on the other level, there's a power surge, and basically everything goes out on a level very far from where they're at. And I'm wondering, is that going to be important? Like, could that be what Cassian's working on? Is like whatever is letting that charge flow through, or is it just when they try to affect Cassian's escape, is it going to like take out the rest of the power in the place because they have to kind of move all the energy to one spot?
Yeah, they're going to have to cut the power so they don't get fried. I mean, that is going to be absolutely key. And that's why they're paying attention to when troops are not, or I should say guards, when guards are not wearing the fancy Yeezy boots, so they don't get fried when they're walking on the floor. And how they cut that power is going to be what we're going to watch next episode. But in the next, somebody knows, and that somebody who knows is Kino. And it's going to be so key as far as to learn all the information that Kino has developed, years spending in the prison and years being the floor leader, on how exactly they're going to do that. But I'm glad you pointed that out, because that's something that I did notice, Chirizi, is that when the power went out, there was a lot of confusion. And in order to do a prison escape, now I've been part of many prison escapes. You need to create mass confusion. And that's how you create the most chaos, is finding a way to short out the power. And if you could shut the power off into the prison, it may impact doors, but the primary goal is make sure that damn floor does not turn on.
Well, so you're saying that, and then there's a comment that Danny put in here, and it says, "Wouldn't it be wild if he uses a different floor fry for him to escape?" And I think here's where we could really see if Cassian genuinely cares about people. He's going to get up there. He's going to have boots on. He's going to be able to go, I can get out of here. Is he willing to indiscriminately fry a floor that we can't see? And like, just, like if he gets to the control panel, hey, floor 2, I'm just leaving this thing on. We're going to fry all you guys, but it's going to short the rest of the power in the place. And that's how everyone else is going to escape. We're going to fry the few to save the many.
Isn't that a psychology experiment? It's something about the trolley, in which the trolley has two paths. You could either change the track and save the woman that's tied to the rails, or you could switch the track and then the trolley with the people on board like fall off the cliff. Like, which one do you pick? Do you sacrifice the one to save the many, or do you save the one that's in peril and hope everyone else that has the freedom of movement gets off the damn trolley before it flies off the cliff? This is I like how this is playing out. I didn't think about this. I think Danny makes a really good point, and I think the way you explained it too, Chirizi, the more that it's swirling in my head, that would be really riveting television at the moment. Like, there's so many TV shows where it's like, you got to press the button, but which button am I going to press? And it'd be fascinating if that is the option, that either I can leave by myself or I could save everyone in the room, but it requires me to completely kill an entire floor in order to get out. Is their sacrifice worth it?
It's killing 100 to save 4,800, possibly. I mean, like, obviously not everyone's going to survive the escape. And I also still have no idea how they're going to get out of there. You know, like,
Unless it a water planet?
Unless this thing flies. I don't know.
It won't be noticeable at all.
Like, are they just going to hang out there? They're just going to hang out there till the next the next 40 transports come and just like take them out one by one. Like, yeah, I'm not sure how they're going to do that. But so then the episode kind of switches gears, and first we see Mon Mothma in Senate getting her ass booed. Like, I mean, like like there's a few people that are like, let her speak, but like overall, she's trying to say, hey, you know, the Patriot Act sucks, and everyone's just screaming at her that hail the Empire, and then they're turning off their lights. That's an interesting thing of like, I'm out. I'm just turn off my lights. But she gets all that, and then she comes home, and Vel's there. And one of the cool things I thought about Vel is that she talks a lot of shit to Perrin, who's also talking shit to her. And I love that. I'm also really hoping for Mon Mothma's kid to die at some point in this. She's the worst, and her father sucks too. I want them both to be rid of. But I still think Perrin is the Fredo of this. Josh, did the conversation with Vel push Mon forward at all? Is this camaraderie with her cousin, who she doesn't know was part of the Aldhani heist? Does this kind of give her the motivation that she needs for the next couple steps?
I don't think so. I think she's still undecided just how much risk that she's willing to take. She's getting very stressed though during this, because later in the conversation with Tay regarding now I don't know who Davo is. Davo Skulden. I don't know if this is a current character or a callback.
I don't think it's really a known character. Okay. If it is, if it's in like comics or something, anyone in the comments, feel free to tell us about it. I did not recognize the name, but we'll get into the Davo in a little bit. But yeah, like I'm wondering kind of like
she feels like she's drowning. She feels like she's drowning. I did not know that they were related. So this was a shocker first time watching it. My cousin's there, and then you see Val and be like, oh, they are related. Okay, I did not know that. That is really interesting.
Yeah, we're kind of like, oh, is that Luthen's daughter? And now we're like, oh, it's Mon's cousin. She's gonna be really pissed at Luthen.
And it harkens back to a previous conversation when she was on Ferrix, and she was called a spoiled rich brat. And she took offense to that. And it gets brought up again to pretend that you're still a spoiled rich girl. And she'll have to play that part again in order to stay hidden from the Empire. So she doesn't continue getting trailed, or does get trailed. But that scene when Val leaves and like Mon Mothma sulking, and the conversation about possibly having to get a loan from a thug, even though they're a very rich thug. I get the impression Mon Mothma right now is drowning, and she's looking for a life jacket. And so I'm not there yet in which this is pushing her to be more of a rebel. There has to be another moment that really sets her off on this track where she just gives up everything that's in Coruscant. And then we see her where she's at in Rogue One, leading and trying to unite the other rebel factions.
I like that. I also, you mentioned something in there, and I hadn't really thought about it until now. But so Vel is obviously spoiled rich kid. Mon Mothma, it's similar, it seems, right? I mean, the way Perrin acts, and they came from the same upbringing, like they were rich. She has a family fortune, all this. Mm-hmm. I wonder if think to is it Platoon, I think, where Charlie Sheen's character has volunteered to be in the Vietnam War, as opposed to all these other guys that are they just have to be there. They were drafted. And I wonder if this faction Vel, Mon Mothma, if the others kind of look at them like, we had no choice but to fight. And so we're on the ground and we have to fight because this is, like we're getting stomped on. Do they, how do they look at these two? Do they look at them as like, yeah, you're here now, but you could just run off and you'll be fine, unlike us? And so I wonder if there's going to be some of that in because they're making quite a big deal about how wealthy they are. So I'm wondering if there's if that's going to come back in some way, because Saw seems to hate a lot of the other factions, right. and we don't know much about Anton Krieger. We know about Enfys Nest Cell, and they probably are similar. So like it's gonna be interesting to see how that plays into this alliance coming together, because Mon's gonna have to be the one to convince them, as you mentioned.
And we know that she never convinces Saw Gerrera.
Right.
Saw's got a trust issue. He doesn't trust anyone.
He's going to be great in the second season.
Now, Saw does make a good point. Like, what's the end game here? Like, what are we fighting towards, and what does post-Empire life look like? And does that make sense for me? I don't know if I want to be fighting beside you if our views are different and what we want the post-Empire life to be. And Luthen's trying to get Saw Gerrera to focus and be like, let's just get to the post-Empire era first, and then we'll decide what that looks like. I just need the Empire to die.
It feels like baseball, right? Like we're like, hey, we need to get to the playoffs before we worry about what happens in the playoffs.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, it's with Mon Mothma, I am enjoying the struggles that this character is going through, and the hiding in the public and how difficult it is, and the scheming and the conspiring in the background. This is all very interesting and intriguing to me, but I think we're still waiting for the moment that pushes her off over the edge, in which she decides to really complete her vow and become the rebel that we learn who she is later on.
Yeah, and the big jump, the jump out of the Senate, we know is not going to happen in this season. She may make that decision mentally, but we know that jump is later, and will tie us to Rebels. So that's I think a couple of years out. But yeah, but to your point, Josh, mentally not there yet. Like there might be a turning point where she's like, okay, F it, I'm all in on this. And then we don't see the jump to like, I'm not in the Senate anymore for a couple of years, but we see the mental shift. So speaking of mental shifts, Partagaz told Dedra to watch her back not too long ago. And I thought when he said it, it was about another one of the white shirts that are around the table. But maybe it's this jerk off that pops in when she starts to unload her Cassian thing. Like I felt like she had like the whole thing. She was like, she had it all timed. She was like gonna, just like she did to the other guy, bait someone in and then tell why Cassian was tied to Aldhani. And this guy just jumps in. And you could tell that she's a little bit pissed that he just jumped in on this. And I'm wondering, with so much infighting in the ISB, is this guy, going to be the kind of the fly in the ointment for her?
Yeah, that's interesting, because there's the whole scene with Syril, and
we'll get to him in a moment. But that was wild.
That was wild. And this guy had already said Dr. Gross without her permission. But that's a good idea. That's what I would have done. So yes, again, any time in the Empire, it appears that people who work for the Empire, whenever there's a window of opportunity to put myself in the spotlight that could get me promoted or get me ahead of others, they are taking advantage of that. And they are also not good teammates to one another. And it is a bit cutthroat on how operations work within the Empire. And it's kind of like the corporate world sometimes in real life. And they're doing a really good job in this show of portraying that because maybe this guy gets promoted and he will undermine Dedra soon.
You mentioned the part where he sends off the doctor ahead of that. And like all I could think when she walks in and he says that, all I could think of was Spaceballs when Dark Helmet's like, you went over my helmet. Like that's all all I could think of when he said that he already did that. I was like cracking up to myself watching that. But so we're in this ISB office, and like I want to jump to a different part where they're in the ISB office and they've detained the rebel pilot, right? And the good doctor, as you mentioned, is there to interrogate him, gets what he wants out of him, which is the fact that he works for Anton Krieger, who Luthen was trying to hook up Saw with to go do this job. The word on the job is out. Anton Krieger's name is now on the tip of their tongues. And I'm kind of wondering, like, is this just a nobody pilot? Is this someone that is important? But like, what is going to be the fallout of this pilot being, because it sounds like they're going to kill him. Mm-hmm. They're going to leave him for Krieger's people to find. And so what's going to be the impact of that to the overall rebellion? How close are they going to get? How close is the ISB going to get, I should say, to Luthen because of this?
That's a really good question. And I think, well, first, the pilot's going to die. I mean, it's very simple. The pilot is going to die. Ship is going to be adrift. Krieger's faction is going to find the ship and bring the ship back. And then pop, 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 pop. Destroyers come out of light speed and jump the rebellion faction. And maybe Anton Krieger survives, but the faction, and I'm guessing here, maybe the faction gets destroyed by the Empire. And Krieger retreats and then goes back to Luthen and Saw Gerrera and wonders, is this even worth it? I barely escaped with my life. The people who followed my lead, most of them are already dead. Why are we doing this? And this is something that is a common theme I think we're going to find in Andor and goes all the way to Rogue One. Even though Jyn Erso was trying to explain that rebellions are built on hope, that this theme is the risk worth it? Is this worth all of everything that I'm possibly sacrificing, even my life and the life of others? Is this worth it? And I think that is going to be another opportunity where I think Anton Krieger brings that to Luthen, and Luthen still has to figure out if this is all worth it for him. But I think that he is part of the end game here of what Mon Mothma and the entire conspiracy group is trying to do with this rebellion. But there's going to be parts of the faction that they lean on that might quit or might get snuffed out.
No, I like that. I like that a lot. I like the idea of the Krieger trying to get in there and the Star Destroyers descending upon him, especially if that pulls them away. Like, I don't know, like the planets that they mentioned, I don't know exactly where they all fit or where Narkina 5 is. So I wonder, though, could there be a just kind of a perfect scenario for Cassian where it's near Narkina 5? And it pulls all the ships that would have been near Narkina 5 over to this other place. And then he's got another opening, just like the Eye of Aldani. He's got a way out. The Krieger thing, though, is interesting because, like, if he does survive, it depends, really, is he captured or not? Right? Like, if he's captured, here's yet another person that knows who Luthen is, and that's problematic for him too. And like in the comments we saw earlier, like Cassian has to kill Vel because she's going to try and kill him. Like, how many people is Luthen going to have to try and kill to just keep himself a secret? And like, I think we're getting to a point where it's like everyone just knows who this guy is. He just needs to disappear, you know? And so, I mean, obviously he's disappeared to some extent, either death or just out of there, because we don't know anything about him in the future state. So I'm interested to see what the Krieger thing does here. But like, this is just another moment of the Empire. Like in the beginning, we saw they're talking about the guy, I'm blanking, the guy they just tortured, that they're going to hang him to just show people.
Oh,
like
Salmon Pock. Yeah.
Salmon Pock, they're going to hang him. You know, this person, like, the idea is like all the ideas involve killing this guy. Like there's no like idea that's like, hey, why don't we just bring him in? Like it's all we got to murder this guy. The indiscriminate killing of the Empire is just unmatched at this point. Like we're really seeing what the Empire is all about. But speaking of indiscriminate killing, let's talk about Syril Karn, because as I put in here, he's definitely a serial eater. Is he also a serial killer? Because he is just the weirdest character. Like every moment of that scene is so strange and is so like stalkerish and out there. Josh, I went back and forth, like kind of pausing and reframing the part where he grabs her arm, because I so wanted it to be a Danny Ocean moment of like, I'm dropping something in your pocket and Uncle Harlow's actually part of the rebellion, and now so am I, and now we're just tracking you. That's what we're doing. No, I didn't see it. He's just a creep. He's just the creepiest creep from Creepsville. Like it's wild. What did you think about this scene? Because like again, we're talking like, this is a very much an adult show. This is not a like, hey, your kids would love this. What did you think about what's going on here?
At one point, I thought when he was talking about the beauty of the galaxy, and that's something that you gave me, I'm like, are you professing your love to Dedra?
It's what it feels like, right?
Do you have a crush on her? Like, what is going on? And
no, because I think you're right, because like think about the insanity of in this moment when he's like, our last conversation, and she's like, I was interrogating you.
Yes, that wasn't a conversation. I brought you in for questioning. And him not getting the clue, which we've known many guys in our life who have not gotten the clue talking to women in public spaces. But yeah, it's Syril is desperately wanting to work for Dedra, desperately wants to work for ISB just to find Cassian. And I'm wondering if we're going to get to a point with this promotion that he's still going to be searching for Cassian. And when we hear about Narkina 5, which I'm sure is going to be another Empire World event, that our boy Syril Karn here may go rogue, but not rogue like a rebel, going rogue and doing what the Empire should be doing and hunting down Cassian Andor.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that like there's definitely like and I think that they do a good job of making his mother insane, so that he's a very Norman Bates like character, where his mother is this wild hold over him and like is pushing him, and it's to the level of psychosis now. And you could start to see it in how he's interacting with her, where he's like you can't tell if he's like the personification of Twitter DMs or if he's truly just obsessed with Cassian. Like there's the barriers are all gone. His like they make him extremely white in this. Like he is not leaving the house. Like he's either at work or the house, and he is just like seeing no sunlight. He's doing nothing. He's obsessed over two things, and it's the ISB and it's Cassian. And like he's to the point where when he hears that there was this break, and like it's possible that they're going to know that Cassian was there. Like we had our Cassian in our fingertips and we missed him. We had him all along. If he finds that out, I agree. He's going to go nuts. He is going to drag Dedra down with him. Like he's going to find a way to do that. And our guy from earlier is going to be standing there to take his promotion in the ISB. Like he's just waiting it out. He's waiting it out until something pulls her down, pushes him up. It's all like Syril is just a tragic character. Like he is just like he wants to be good because his mom told him he sucks, so he wants to be good, and like he's just doing everything to ruin stuff. It's amazing. He's a true Empire character. He's if there's ever a true Empire character, this is him.
That is true. I mean, is he gonna last into season 2, or is this just a season 1 character?
Oh man, I hope so. I mean, like just him being like a guy like I'll flip back to this because like you need to see his face, but him being like a guy like in Always Sunny when Pepe Silva or whatever when he's got the whole board up with all the like the strings and everything.
Yeah.
He needs to be Charlie Day in that scene. Like he needs to go that far. Like you need to see like his mother, just like Norman Bates' mom, just dead in the corner, sitting in a rocking chair, and he's explaining to her all of how all this connects. Like that should be the first scene of season 2.
I like it. Let's do it.
But let's get back to Mon Mothma because you touched on this, and I think that this is going to be very interesting because part of what Mon Mothma is doing here is funding the rebellion, which is, I mean, Luthen went out and stole a bunch of money. She's doing it a different way, but now she's at the point where she has to get involved with the criminal underworld of Star Wars, which we've only seen very small pieces of. I mean, Jabba the Hutt is probably like the biggest piece of it that we've really gotten a look at. But, if you look at the comics and the cartoons and all those things, like there's a lot of underworld factions, right? You got Black Sun, Crimson Dawn is in Solo. Solo gets a good glimpse of this, and there's all these different groups, the Pikes and so on and so forth. So are we going to get kind of a third layer of this? So we got Mon Mothma and the Rebel faction. We've got Cassian's story going. Are we going to get a little bit of an interplay of the criminal underworld and how that works within this show? Or are we just going to get just a tiny taste?
We might get a tiny taste, but I'm hoping we get more because it does make sense because the criminal underworld continues to exist under the Empire. How? There are lessons to be learned by the rebellion in order to be sneaky, and still continue to grow a base because that's what the criminal underworld does. And whether you like it or not, you are short on allies. And the criminal underworld thrives under the Empire. So you may need to learn how to work with them in order to survive and thrive. So I'm guessing we get a little bit of a taste, but I'm just like you, Chirizi. I hope we get a lot more and we really get into the weeds of the criminal underworld in this particular show and in future Star Wars content. I believe there was a George Lucas show planned years ago about the Star Wars Underground that never got produced.
Have you ever seen the footage that's online? It's not good.
No. I mean,
like,
ago. I'm sure they could do better today.
It's like, oh yeah. I mean, like I'm talking like visually. It's like it's 90s. It's like it's definitely not Final Cut type stuff. But like I've watched it like 100 times because I'm just so intrigued by what it could have been. And I was hoping that Solo would have done better and spawned a show so that we could get more of that. This might be an opportunity to see some of that in the comics. I know I think there's a series that is not even ended yet, where Kira is trying to overthrow the Empire. And I think the idea behind all of it is like, why would the criminal underworld like the Empire? They probably would just think of them as someone who's eventually going to press their thumb down on them and eliminate them, and it should be an enemy. So like the criminal underworld should be aligned with the rebellion, and a guy like Maul, who's still there, should be also aligned with the rebellion for two reasons. One, he's running a criminal organization, and two, him and the Emperor don't so much get along anymore. And he got his ass handed to him in the Clone Wars, and so he's probably still mad about that. He holds a grudge. That's what does him in the end. But like, there's got to be like a lot of these groups where, unless they're kind of in with the Empire and the Empire's allowing them to operate, they have to want to rebel against it to keep themselves safe. A guy like Jabba the Hutt is way out in the Outer Rim where they don't care about, so he can exist out there. But we're talking about Chandrilla and Coruscant and all these other places. Like, they have to be not rebels, but at least have the same goal. And so that could be an interesting thing that we see in the rest of this. And then, speaking of goals, we find out that, hey, no one's getting out of this place alive, right? It's obvious. The doctor tells them, and finally Kino just tells them how many guards are on each floor, which is insane to me, because so he says never more than 12, meaning that they rotate, and there's 7 levels. I mean, what's there, like 70, 75 guards that 4,900 people need to take down? It's really the Alcatraz part of it that's going to be more interesting in the jailbreak. Is like, right. It doesn't even seem difficult to break out of this place, but where are you going to go? And so, like, I guess my question to you, Josh, is how soon after this moment are they going to try to break out? And how do they get off of this thing?
That's a great question. I don't know how they're going to get off planets. One idea that's kind of brewing in my head, and I'll get to in a moment, but the process here. So again, they need to find a way to cut off the power, and they need to time it so when there's a transition of the guards and the guard's guard is down, that's when they pounce. They get on the elevator, they take the weapon, they kill the other guard, they send the elevator down, get as many people as possible, and then they got to play the timing game when they see the lights starting to change and they start seeing white blinking lights, get off the floor. And if you don't, you're fried. Well, they gone. Every man for themselves and keep going. So do you think Kino survives the prison escape?
No, I don't. And I think that he ends up being someone that sacrifices themselves for people to escape, because I think there's, in this moment when he tells Cassian what Cassian wants to hear, it is in no way because Kino wants to get out of there. It's pure guilt. He's unknowingly been driving these guys to their own deaths. And like, he can't, like, that's what he can't handle. I don't think he cares about getting out of there. And so I think that you're going to see that. I think there's a chance that he gets to the end of the road with them of like up to the water. But I don't think he gets off with them.
So here's my theory. Luthen is going to hear about activity on the police radio that they have in the back of their shop, that there's something going on in Narkina 5. And he's going to fly out to Narkina 5 and figure out what's going on, because you need allies, you need troops. No better troops in the rebellion than criminals. That's
I like it.
So that this is how he's going to fly there and be like, I'm going to get new recruits.
Same guy.
Oh, damn. I've been looking for you, Cassian.
I got to tell everyone not to kill you now.
Oh, what? And then they use the fancy ship that he's got to get out. So that's my theory. And maybe we'll see some TIE fighters mixed in and shooting those TIE fighters down in the fancy ship. That's what I'm guessing here, is that Luthen on the police radio is going to hear that there's something going on, and that's how Cassian Andor gets off planet.
I like that. I would love to see like someone within there already have planned what's going to happen. Like if they were ever to get out of here, here's who we call. That'd be interesting. I think it's going to be great, because like there's so few possibilities for them to get off of this planet. Like the only thing that would like bum me out is if like this is a ship and they like fly it out. I would be like, come on.
They're not going to get you can't hide. You're not going to get very far.
But yeah, like I have no idea how they're going to get off there. I think they do go almost immediately, though. I think that there's a pressure to this of like, we know that they're going to come pick up Olaf, and I think that's when they really go after, like when they get that person that comes in for that, they're just going to go, because I think they've got it planned out, they've got the idea, and they have no other choice. I think everybody is going to know soon enough that, you know, we're never getting out of here. Yes. And that fact is too much to hold down, because people are going to just start trying to make terrible attempts at getting out. And Cassian has the best plan, so he's got to do it immediately. So I think that's why I have cue the Thin Lizzy. Next week there's going to be a jailbreak, and I can't wait for it. I think this is going to be probably one of the most tense and exciting episodes of this series, way more so than the heist. Like the heist didn't even get to the level that this is going to get to. This is going to be crazy.
Yeah, the buildup, right, has already been intense, and it's going to be fascinating, because even with my idea, like I think that idea is still a bit of a stretch, but I'm ready. I want to learn. We know it happens, but I really want to learn. And like, how in the world did you get out of here? Because it seems pretty dire. It almost seems impossible for you to escape this prison. I can't wait to see next week how they do it.
And how does Melshi live? It's question number 2. All right. Well, thanks everybody for checking this out, and we will be back soon to talk hopefully about a huge jailbreak. If they extend this for a few more episodes, I will not be happy. But the series arc makes it seem like this will happen next episode. So we'll be back for that, and we'll talk to you all soon.
Bye, everyone.